Hello, I'm Kyle Green with the Green Outdoors, and today I'm going to teach you the basics of ammunition, what makes them up, how they work, and why they make your gun go boom. Let's get started. Now we're going to start with rifle. I've got a rifle bullet in my hand. It is a .270 Winchester. Now it's always important to double check that the caliber of your bullet matches the caliber of your rifle. If you don't, it could be disastrous. When you look at this bullet right here, you're going to see a gold casing and the projectile. Those are the most obvious things on this bullet to start with. Now this gold casing here is what holds everything together. Now let's talk about what's in here. To start is the primer. Now this little button, and I literally call it a button because that's the best way to describe it, on the back of a rifle bullet, as soon as that is poked with your gun, meaning all your gun is a long tube, a long barrel of steel, and a little poker. And when it pokes that button, it goes boom, and here's why. It pokes that, which creates a spark. So that primer creates a little bit of a spark. Now there's a little bit of air and oxygen in here that allows that spark to ignite. Then just after that, you're going to find gunpowder. Now when that spark and oxygen hit that gunpowder and light it, it explodes. When it explodes, it's going to push the projectile out the end and out the barrel. Now the only reason why it goes forward and out the barrel is because that's the path of least resistance, which is why ammunition is actually dangerous. If you're to poke this with a piece of metal, it's going to explode and it will become more of a grenade than it would be a bullet if you did it without it being in a gun. So handle ammunition safely. Now that you've learned about center fire rifles, I'm going to talk about rimfire rifles. Now this is designated for only low pressure rounds. So for instance, a .22 long range is probably the most commonly used, is a smaller bullet, low pressure, but it's good for small game, and it's a little bit different. It has a primer built into the entire rim of the bullet, meaning it can be poked anywhere by the gun and still go off. Another downfall to the rimfire is they are not reloadable. Now what's reloadable? People can actually buy projectiles, buy primer, buy gunpowder, and reload rifle rounds to make them exactly what they want so they can reuse the casings. Now let's talk about shotgun shells. Very similar, but to me, a little bit more obvious in how they work. Reason being is because when you shake this shotgun shell, you're going to hear the BBs inside. So a shotgun shell means you're shooting multiple projectiles. Now when you poke this button, or spark this primer as you should say officially, the gun pokes that, creating the spark, which hits the oxygen, exploding the gunpowder. Now there's one more added component in a shotgun shell, and it's called the wadding. Now different shotgun shells, some for duck hunting, some for turkey hunting, some for shooting trap and skeet, are different. But essentially, they're a plastic casing that holds all those pellets in place in here so they're not moving around. When you push the primer, lighting the gunpowder, shooting out the wadding out the end of the gun, because it's the path of least resistance, it will carry the pellets out and open up, allowing the projectiles to go freely. Now having different choke tubes on the gun will determine how big of a siphon that is and how open the pattern is of the pellets. But again, there's tons of projectiles in here. This is a 8-shot, so it's good for like clays and doves and things like that. So there's a lot of little pellets in here, a lot of little projectiles. It's the wadding that keeps them together. It's the wadding that carries them out the end of the gun and then releases them so that they can open up in the pattern of your choosing. Now that you've learned the basics of a standard shotgun shell, let's talk about slugs. Now, if you don't know what a slug is, it's a shotgun round that's in a shotgun cartridge, but it's one big hunk of lead. So for instance, you could have a 1-ounce lead projectile. Instead of having multiple projectiles like a normal shotgun, you're only shooting one large projectile, kind of like a rifle, but doesn't exactly operate the same. Now what it does have is it has the standard primer, and it has the oxygen, and it has the gunpowder, but the projectile is one large one. Now it could be rifled, which means that it has engraving on the side of the projectile itself, allowing it to spin out of the barrel to be more accurate. Now let's talk about steel shot. Steel shot's often used in non-toxic situations. Now, when waterfowl hunting, it's often illegal to use lead shot because people don't want lead in waterfowl areas. Therefore, you have to use a non-toxic shot like steel. Now, steel is much harder than lead, which means when it comes out of the gun, it doesn't come out very nicely and bend and isn't malleable like gold or lead is. Instead, it's really, really, really hard. So oftentimes check your choke tubes because it might say you're not allowed to use steel shot in a full choke, but it'll always stay on the choke tube what you can and can't use. Now that you know the basics of ammunition, hopefully it makes you feel a little bit more cautious when you're handling it. I'm Kyle Green. Thanks for tuning in. Stay green.
Thank you for watching this how-to video, which is part of the Greenway Outdoors Outdoor Education Series. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more outdoor education content. Also, check out the Greenway Outdoors podcast, Huntcast, and official TV show. Visit thegreenwayoutdoors.com for more information.